Hey traders, welcome to another crypto market and global macro update. We'll be going over some equities. We'll look at the US dollar. We'll also be looking at BTC, Ethereum, and XRP, maybe a few other altcoins if we're feeling spicy a little bit later in the video. But first things first, let's look at the NASDAQ and get a really good understanding of the overall sentiment within the market. In my opinion, overall, US dollar is still going to continue to the downside. We'll take a look at it within the smaller time frames, but even looking at the daily chart, really we're seeing a very strong push to the downside. We just broke a major level, and we're going to be continuing the overall momentum to their next major level of significance for the demand and for the bulls, which is going to be around 89 to 87 within the DXY, which is the US dollar currency index. So we'll take a look at that, and we'll be going through our rounds here. First things first, let's look at the NDX, which is the NASDAQ 100 index. In short, we had a previous all-time high. We consolidated, we contracted, and then we had an even deeper contraction. Let's take a closer look right here, and let's also take a nice picture within our snip so we can really easily explain what we're talking about. So we saw a very strong impulsive push. This is the previous all-time high, which is a major level of resistance. We had kind of like a resistance like that. It was a pretty significant one. So we had that resistance zone right here. We do see that we had an impulsive push and then validating that previous zone as a new level of support. This is the impulse push, this is the pullback, and then you get your strong impulse push after the break, and this is where the bulls really started to take charge. We do see a very aggressive, pretty brutal pullback, but we do see it hold within the previous level of support for the zone there, and then we create a series of higher lows. Not so much with this one, but this major low right here, and then this is a higher low, and then we saw it started to make a lower high, so we connected the lower highs, and then we got our nice, you could call it a descending triangle, but I kind of look at it as a symmetrical triangle because we see this zone here, and then we see this support held higher than this one, and then we saw a higher low compared to the previous one. So we drew a nice ascending zone there, and then we saw a descending zone, especially with this zone right there. And then also, this was very bullish in my opinion, is when you saw a bounce with the higher low, extremely aggressive push to the upside, and then you see the consolidation with the series of higher lows squeezing up against this major resistance right there. This is an ascending triangle squeezing up against a major level of significance. When it breaks out, usually what happens in these scenarios with an all-time high momentum to the upside, sentiment is very bullish. Overall, it's looking great. You're going to get a squeeze, and then this is a deep contraction into an expansionary phase. At the end of the day, contractions turn into massive impulse pushes if they're very contracted. Look at BTC, look at really any asset that you're looking at. For example, maybe not a chart right here, this would be the best example. Maybe a contraction right here where you're getting a hold of the support zone right there, right? You see hold, and then you get a series of lower highs that's contracting the volatility closer and closer, and then look at this massive move right here after, about the size of the previous shape, which is a descending triangle. So nice geometry there. Coincidence? I don't think so. But going on to it, we saw a nice impulsive push right here. You're going to be looking for a previous level of resistance, which you can see, which is around, let's say, 12.2, which is right around here, and this is now where there are going to be some buyers, some demand, which we're going to be looking for that next impulse push from. So overall, it's really following this price action structure very well, extremely well respected all around in my opinion. We see that nice higher low there, create additional support along with this descending zone right there, as well as the horizontal level of significance. So lots of buy pressure above the 12K zone for the NDX, and I think that the next move is going to be to the upside. And this is definitely looking very solid. Next index we're going to be looking at is the S&P 500 Classic. If we're looking at the 12-hour chart, we see a very strong impulsive push after breaking this major level, which was a previous level of support. Let's take a picture and discuss this a little bit here. Looks somewhat similar to the NDX, but a little bit different. This is definitely a descending triangle, high, lower high. We do see a nice rejection for that third lower high, 1, 2, 3. Third one makes it a validated zone. So once we see that validated zone appear, we're going to be looking for a pullback after the impulsive push within that zone right there. previous resistance to new level of support, along with a descending zone, creating additional buy pressure. So we're going to be looking at this zone as a possible entry just for this overall structure and pattern. So then we do see that nice buy pressure hold up the price, and then we see a higher low right here, and then we're going to take a look at exactly what happened within a smaller time frame. Just wanted to have a really good understanding of what occurred, maybe at a 4-hour time frame. All right. So now that we're looking at a smaller time frame, a little bit closer within the price action, we see a break and retest right there, resistance, new level of support validated twice, and then we see a nice double top, and then you do get a little bit of failure, but overall you do see that higher low structure right there, and then you create that nice ascending zone, and then you see this high, lower high, and then you can see there is hesitation right there. Maybe not on the 4-hour you don't see red candle, but definitely on the 1-hour you would see a red candle, at least a lot of hesitation. So then we can see 1, 2, 3 valid zone, as well as this zone right here, and then we're seeing that buy pressure squeeze the price between this resistance right here and this list level of support. This is our impulse push to break this consolidation zone, and then now we're seeing that buy pressure pick it right back up, holding this previous level of resistance as a new level of support. A little bit of hesitation, a little bit of failure to the downside, but I think overall we're going to get our next bullish push. I think the NASDAQ does look more bullish on the tech sector, but the S&P still does look pretty strong, and I think this is going to be holding within this previous level of support. It's failing a little bit right now. I would say if it breaks below the $3,600 zone, I would definitely be a little bit less risk on, I guess, I would have less of a risk on sentiment in my personal opinion, but the NASDAQ is, in my opinion, a better representative of what I currently view to be the market as an extremely risk-on environment. So we're going to be looking at another asset here. S&P looks pretty decent. NASDAQ looks a lot better. Little bit of volatility to the downside for the S&P, so it's going to be increasing the volatility in the VIX here. We do see that previous low was broken, not beautifully, and we see it actually, if we are using it as a zone, I wouldn't absolutely love seeing that. I want to see something like this, where you're seeing that previous resistance turn into a new level of support, like so. That is ideally what we would like to see, but it could just be this zone right here, and then we're going to be looking at this zone to consolidate a little bit further, and then if we're getting our zone like so, we could be seeing something like that, right, where we're seeing a test to validate this previous level of support as a new level of resistance, and then we're going to be testing this level of support as a new level of resistance. It's going to be spiking and then falling back down like so. So overall, it's definitely not showing something that would be worrying just yet, but if it starts breaking this low right there and this kind of consolidation like so, that could be worrying, kind of a cup and handle, and then once it starts trading above this previous low and above these highs right here to start the downtrend, that would be a little bit worrying for the volatility, and I think the S&P could see a little bit of a tumble. So until then, we're going to be just continuing our overall bullish sentiment. Let's keep this on the NASDAQ and turn that to the side. Next thing we're going to be looking at is the US dollar. We do talk about this quite a bit, but I think it's something that more people need to pay attention to. Maybe a lot of people do, in terms of, I guess, the people that are like in the realm of social media, the people that we talk to, but I would say that understanding what the US dollar is doing is definitely important. So since COVID crash, we have seen a downtrend in the dollar, where there's been a lot of currency inflation, proliferation, a lot of currency printing. There's going to be less trust in the overall currency system, in my opinion, within the United States, because MMP, they understand that they could just print it and there's no real consequence. They've been sending checks to people, and I think that this is the start of, I would say, opening the gates to a new model of, I guess, economics in some sense, with the ability to print money and give it to people, and momentarily it's happy, but they come to understand that it is a tax on citizens. It 100% is, and that's why we need to really take a good look at sound money, understand why we are looking at investing in it, why we're looking at trading it, and why we are so bullish on it. So a little bit of understanding there. I expect this to move to the downside, and we're going to probably get some hesitation around 89, 88. Let's go to the weekly to have a good understanding why. So let's take a picture of this. This is a pretty far back chart within the weekly. We can see right all the way back to around 1986 is when this chart started there. So if we're looking at this major previous zone right here, very major level of support that we did fall below. Also see support held all through here, and once we broke that, we're now tumbling to the downside. That's a major significant zone that we broke. The next zone that we're looking at for a potential demand area is going to be this previous low. We can't see between 1995, if we're looking at the really long time frames, all through here. Pretty significant zone. It was a nice consolidation point in 2007 there before we took a massive tumble to the downside. So what do we see here? In my personal opinion, if we're going to fall below 88, that's going to be a very clear potential double top. And we've seen them happen before, right? Top, nice double top where you get this top and this top at the same height, same level of resistance, previous high right here, right? And this is the neckline. Once you break the neckline, you see some hesitation. After the hesitation, massive capitulation, huge moves to the downside. Let me get some water here. So not saying it's inevitable. We could get quite a long time of consolidation, but overall, if our thesis is going to be playing out with the US dollar inflating, devaluing, and in short, in less demand, there's going to be a rush to sound money, and the dollar is going to be going down. So we're going to be looking for this $88 zone quite clearly, quite closely, to make sure that if it does get broken, we're looking to capitalize with things like BTC. I think the overall cryptocurrency market will be doing extremely well if the 88 zone does get broken, as well as gold and silver. But to be completely honest, right now, gold and silver don't look as appealing as crypto. We see silver doing better than gold. Gold's not doing phenomenal really at all, to be completely honest. It is surprising to me to actually see that, but at the end of the day, I do think that there's a lot of interesting cryptocurrencies, especially BTC, because it's new, because it is more limited, and yeah, there's so many things that it could do. You can store it within your pocket. You can't do that with millions of dollars in gold. It's impossible, right? You can have it in vaults and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, if you want to hold your assets that you have, BTC and other cryptocurrencies would definitely be a really good way to go. So looking at this potential double top, that's going to be what we're going to be aiming for. Let's look at a smaller time frame to get a little bit more of a closer look to how we can continue this overall trend. All right, so we do see a nice previous resistance, new level of support. Let's not get that one. Our rectangular zone. And we see our first rejection right here, second rejection right here, creating our strong level of resistance. So now we are it looks like creating a series of higher lows, like so. So then we have a couple options here of how this could play out within the 4-hour time frame. First option, the easiest option, is if we see a squeeze, a contraction, and then you create some level of a base where you get an ascending zone and then also a horizontal level of support. You break below the base, you break market structure from a consolidation like so, into a break, and then you're going to retest that previous support as a new level of resistance, and then you're going to be continuing the overall momentum to the downside. That's going to be the first possible play for this overall structure, the simplest, the easiest to enter in my personal opinion. You're going to be looking for a stop loss above this zone, so basically you're looking for something like this overall, right? Ideally. And you're looking for those validations and new levels of resistance. There could be another possibility, and this is why we always like to look at the larger time frames. This is a very major impulsive push because the 91.92 area is a very significant level of support. So this is our first impulsive push. We could see a pullback, but I don't want to be entering here to here ideally. What I want to be entering is, let's say, here, or if we get a break here, here, all the way to here, and then a stop loss maybe here or here. So you're looking at risk reward, not just a possible breakout, right? So if we do see a break to the upside, we could be retesting this zone. We have no idea, right? At the end of the day, that could be a possibility, which would mean that equities, cryptocurrencies, I think even gold and silver are going to be moving to the downside if this is trending up. So just something to keep in mind. That's usually the case. The only time the US dollar is going to be going up is when there's fear, uncertainty within the overall risk on markets. And we saw this back when equities were really dumping in March for when initial COVID news hit the mainstream, and then everyone rushed to the dollar because when you sell, let's say, really any commodity, let's say gold, silver, oil, copper, all of these assets are going to be linked to the US dollar because they're traded against the US dollar because the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. So when everyone sells, let's say gold because it's dumping, and silver and Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're now selling that asset and buying the US dollar. So that's going to be a tremendous amount of demand going into the US dollar, which will obviously increase the price. So we're going to be looking at that negative correlation. If it does move to the upside, I'm going to be chilling. I don't want to be looking to enter long on the US dollar, short BTC in this market. It makes absolutely zero sense. I'm willing to stay patient and wait until the right time and then attack the market with quite a bit of capital in order to capitalize on the next continuation pattern. So what's the second option? We're going to see a break to the upside, breaking this major level of resistance here, but we're not going to be looking to enter long. What we want to see is a failure of that zone, and then once you start to see it break below this ascending zone along with this key level of resistance, well, support from a resistance into a support again, that is the really, really good opportunity in order to make some money within the downside. If you're looking at shorts, that's an opportunity within a downtrend. You see an ascending zone, a failure after it breaks to the upside, because that's going to be a fake out. A lot of people just assume that's going to be a long opportunity. I don't really like to look for them. I like to continue the overall trend, and right now the trend is very bearish for the dollar. So we're going to be looking for that crack, that break within that zone there. So that's going to be the a little bit more tricky situation. I think there's going to be a little bit of a shakeout within the cryptocurrency markets, especially because a lot of people can't handle the volatility. They like seeing the 20% moves, the 10%, the 30% moves, but they can't handle the 10%, 15, 20% pullbacks. They do happen. It's inevitable in crypto. Even if you're holding something with a significantly large market cap, within relation to the other cryptocurrencies as BTC. BTC has significant market share, and a lot of people still can't handle that volatility. Imagine holding something like Stellar Lumens or Ripple. That can go down 30%, 40%. It can go down unbelievable amounts in a very quick amount of time compared to maybe the blue chip stocks that the more institutional investors and retirees are more familiar with, but that's just a part of a new asset class. So that's the two different options that we're going to be looking at for the US dollar in order to carry the overall momentum to the downside. All right, so now we're going to be looking at BTC initially, and then we're going to jump into some alts here. Going to be looking at not every single time frame. Hopefully having a good understanding of where we currently are in relation to previous historic time frames, but we're in a bullish push. This is our first major continuation pattern. within the bullish push, right? We got our break past 10K. We retested 10K, which was extremely significant. We saw our contraction, and then we saw an absolute blast off. Look how absolutely perfect this was. If you didn't catch that, come on, definitely. That's a great opportunity, right? Second time around, this is our first continuation pattern within our bullish push. What we're going to be looking for is a symmetrical triangle breakout. We've been talking about this within our Discord. Let's just quickly pull it up right here. We saw two opportunities within this symmetrical triangle formation. The first one is if we got a squeeze against this previous all-time high of around 20K. We've already almost hit it once. We saw a slightly higher low. We saw a nice symmetrical triangle. We did see quite a bit of sell volume, which wasn't ideal, but we were ready for this case if it were to occur. Kind of enjoyed the outcome of the potential second case more, just because we have a better entry right here, as well as, in my opinion, I like to look at descending zones within a bullish market, and I like to look at ascending zone within a bearish market. In my opinion, contractions upwards in a bearish market and contractions downwards in a bullish market are extremely positive. They're market breaths. We like them. We like to trade them. That's exactly what, in my opinion, is in my perfect wheelhouse of, I would say, perfect situations, I guess you could say, in terms of the market. Things you feel very comfortable trading, and those are one of the things. So that's the initial outcome that we looked at right here for possibility number 2, and it does look like we're seeing that right now, where we're seeing that series of higher lows right here, series of higher lows, and then this was the initial symmetrical triangle that broke to the downside right there. And then now we're holding the 17.5K-ish range as a series of higher lows there from the November, let's say 14th low to November 26th, and then we're now seeing the low on December 10th. But didn't take long for us to bounce back with that nice double bottom, and then we do see a series of lower highs here within this symmetrical triangle. And what we're going to be looking for is really the same as every other symmetrical triangle. We trade them basically the same every single time. We're looking for a break in both the price action structure as well as the market structure. So we're looking for previous major zones of resistance horizontally to ensure that we're getting the highest level of confirmation that we possibly can. Also, something to note, we do see a reduction in the amount of sell volume coming in. We see lots of sell volume, big dump. We see a decent amount of sell volume, not so much of a dump, but you do get that break to the downside after the contraction. This is a little bit of a push. We're getting that nice I guess, last of the sellers out. We're getting not much sell pressure, even with the price breaking, which is a great sign that the buyers are ramping up, the buyers are accumulating, and the whales are entering before the next bullish push. So we are looking at this as a potential continuation pattern, and what we're ideally looking for is to see an increase in the amount of buyers coming in. We do see a significant amount overall within the bullish push. This is a sell pressure. This is the overall take profits from the previous all-time high. Obviously 20K is a major zone, so there's going to be some hesitancy. There's going to be some sensitivity there, which is completely reasonable. And in my opinion, we're ramping up and we're contracting the volatility before the next expansionary period. So we have a couple of options here. Let's quickly take a picture of this. Ideally, what we would like to see is a little bit of a validation to get 1, 2, 3, and even a fourth one there with a series of lower highs, and then we can get a little bit of a squeeze. We can maybe even get a ascending triangle right there, and then you're looking for that nice breakout, right? And then it does depend on where it is right now. If it goes like this and pushes down a little bit further, I would say that you could argue that this might be an opportunity, but I really think that this previous resistance right here is going to be the area to look at when you do see that expansion start to come in. You could have a tiered system of entries, 100% up to you, but in terms of the overall structure, we're going to be looking at this symmetrical triangle, break to the upside. We could see a pullback like that. Overall, we're not looking bearish. We're only looking for bullish longs in this market. All right, so now we're going to be looking at some alts. We, in short, are looking for bullish opportunities within the altcoin market because we do think that BTC looks very bullish. Let's actually quickly look at the BTC Dominance before we jump into the alts really quickly. We're seeing a slight contraction here where we do see a series of lower highs, so the dominance is decreasing, and the previous time we saw a massive decrease in the BTC dominance was in 2017, where altcoin boom occurred, massive profits to be had, and obviously a lot of that did come back, and a lot of the coins were retracing at like 80-90% of their all-time high or more. But we do see that in BTC mega boom time, alts will absolutely astronomically outbeat BTC in terms of percentage gain. Now, it depends when you get out, because just as fast as it goes up, it could go down if you're trading an extremely speculative altcoin. Usually, they take the stairs up and the elevator down. So definitely be careful if you are trading extremely speculative, low volume cryptocurrencies, but we try to stick to the higher volume, kind of top 20 altcoins. So taking a quick look at BTC dominance, we do see a series of lower highs. So overall dominance is decreasing. We're at 64.5% right now for BTC dominance. And I think once we start to break below 58, that's when we could see a pretty significant dump to the downside for the BTC dominance. And that's when we're really looking for altcoins. Overall, we do have our favorites that we are investing in, but I would say during these mega dumps of BTC dominance is when you really try to let your profits run, because you have no idea the level of aggressiveness and explosiveness that some of these alts can have with some pretty unbelievable volume and potential 10x, 20x. You know, it can happen. So get ready. It is coming, in my opinion, and yeah, we'll try to keep you informed as best we can. Now we're going to be looking at some alts. After we discuss that, let's take a quick look at that after we just keep BTC on our main homepage there, because we always like to know what BTC is doing. First, we're going to be looking at XRP. So we've been talking about two possible outcomes. The first one would be a symmetrical triangle. We did have that symmetrical triangle, but inevitably it did break to the downside. I would say that would be a better situation right there. Oops, let's get this. It is breaking to the downside, so then the next possible situation that we're going to be looking for is either a descending wedge or a descending triangle formation, with the base of the descending triangle sitting around, let's say, 48 cents for XRP. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see if it holds. Obviously, this is now going to be invalidated, so we can take it away. We can just take this away altogether, and then we're just going to be looking to see if this support holds, and then we do have a very well-respected descending zone right there. Let's even put a projection just to give it a little bit more space. Let's go right there. So now what we're going to be looking for is to see if this level of support, which is a previous resistance right here, previous resistance turning into support, if this is going to hold, we could see another continuation, because this was a massive impulsive push. This is a contraction, and then we could get our second impulsive push. So we're going to be looking for a possible entry for XRP. We'll keep everyone notified. We just had a failure of a symmetrical triangle. That's why we always wait for confirmation, always wait for our price action structure as well as our market structure to both break before we really take any action. So we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen the confirmation. We have not been validated to enter the market. So we just sit, wait, be patient. We're not looking to short. We don't want to micro, like 10 trades in a day, slowly accumulate profits within this zone. In my personal opinion, it just really drains you if you're trying to trade like this breakout right here from this support and then a retest back down to here. Like it's very draining, and some people love it. I personally don't. I'd like to wait for the larger setups in the 4-hour, 6-hour, 12-hour and capture those 10, 20, 30% gains, and they're definitely possible. This one was pretty astronomical. It went up over 100%, which is more possible within bull markets, but just trying to keep it reasonable, trying to keep it understanding. You don't really see 100% too often unless you're in a really bull market or you're trading something very speculative. So just something to keep in mind. And that's unleveraged, right? So if you're leveraging 2-3 times, that would be 100% gains, which is definitely possible. So that's going to be XRP. We're going to be keeping an eye on it, but we're just laying low and waiting for that nice support and that nice base to come in. And then we're looking for that break and retest of the level of previous resistance, new level of support horizontally, as well as the descending zone, right? Two of the major levels of validation that we're looking for. Let's open this up and then be looking at, let's say, Ethereum. Probably not there. Might be this one, and there it is right there. Oops. Haven't opened this up in a little bit, just waiting for BTC mainly. For it to be a little bit more awake, a little bit more active before we look at any other else. So let's take a look at the weekly chart here. Let's get some of these prices away. I was probably explaining something. All right, so overall, like we talked about a lot of times before, massive zone of consolidation, the $300 zone, major level. We broke it, we retested, we saw a nice ascending triangle, and then we had our massive explosion, right? This is the contraction before the impulsive phase, which is right here. So that's exactly what we're talking about. Yes, we're seeing a little bit of consolidation, and this is absolutely perfect. I love seeing consolidations within really bullish price action, because that means there's going to be a possible continuation pattern, right? At the end of the day, that is what we're looking for. So we see a nice high that was formed right here. We see that high get held, creating a level of resistance. And we do look back and zoom out. We can see it was a previous level of support. Support turned into a little bit of a resistance. And we can see overall it is a zone of significance. So if we're looking at that 630, 620 zone, that's going to be a major level of resistance. Let's take it down and drop it to the 6-hour chart. We see a nice descending zone create a possible descending channel. Could be a descending wedge, but within this zone, because 620 is such a major level, I would say looking for a possible entry at that zone would be a better off situation. Looking at the support zone right around here, not absolutely perfect to be more of a zone. So what you see is, let's take a picture. This was a very, very tight, well-respected triangle right here. Had a break, retest, and then a massive impulsive push. We saw a very aggressive pullback, validate this previous resistance as a new level of support, and then you see the impulsive push continue, but it was unable to break this previous high right here in terms of candle closures. That's going to be your major level of resistance. You're now getting a consolidation, and we'll see if it is a contraction, if it's going to be holding that level of support right here. So we see it was a resistance turning into new level of support, support. It is a little bit descending there. But overall, we're looking to see if that level of support is going to hold, because that's going to be a contraction within the price. And we absolutely love seeing contractions because they usually involve an expansionary phase after. So we're going to be looking for that expansionary phase. Like I said, it would be nice to see 620 broken and retested for that extra level of validation, but a possible feeler trade within the breakout phase. If it does something like that, could be a nice feeler before the next entry right there. So then it's going to be continuing to the overall upside. So that's going to be the possible outcome on Ethereum we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for a couple opportunities within this asset, as well as XRP and BTC. So thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, found it useful, informative, educational, any of the above, definitely please give it a like, because we definitely try to provide the best amount of value while we can within the videos here. And if you have any suggestions on what we could potentially review next, drop them in the comments, and we'll be sure to check them out. Also, if you have come this far, just wanted to let you know a lot of the comments that we do get are, I would say, scammers, spam, phishers who are trying to get you to, I would say, send them money, and then they'll hypothetically send you more money back. A lot of these asset managers are not actually traders. They're just trying to steal your money. So be careful out there. If you have any questions, if you are hesitant on answering that email that you got sent, definitely don't hesitate to ask questions and use the Discord to the best of your ability, because there are people there who definitely genuinely are nice individuals and want to help you out explore this very interesting space. So thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. Until next time, have a good one, traders.